All right, yay. Okay, so we technically have everybody here that we need to have here. So thank you guys once again for your patience. Hello, Mrs. Osby. Thank you for joining us today. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I need a motion to call this meeting to order. That could be from any of our members.
I'll motion.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wright.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Brewer. Okay. All right, and so we're going to go ahead. Today's agenda, like I said, hopefully it should be fairly quick. We did talk about a lot of different things last time, and there weren't any changes to that. So like I said, we have our quorum. So we have Mrs. Brewer, our one of our special ed teachers, Mrs. Kachu, our principal. We have Miss Annette, she's our student intervention facilitator, so staff member here on campus. And then we also have two parent members. We have Mrs. Wright and Mrs. Osby. Thank you. I also, like I said, my name is Mrs. Billington. I'm the assistant principal. And then Monique is just going to be taking minutes, my secretary of sorts for this meeting. And then I also, we have another member from another school site that's just coming to attend our meeting, Mrs. Cazares. So these are our people that we have at our meeting today. The last time we met was in February, so that was a while. So I have the minutes, I have it here on the screen. I'll also put it in the chat as well. And so last time when we met, we talked about there wasn't anything to report from the DAC meeting in January. We did review the needs assessment result. The needs assessment was from our ELAC meeting that I had in October. And so the top 3 things were the school plan, student attendance, and training for parents on how to help your child succeed in school. We also reviewed the school budget at that time. I talked about having EL and reading curriculum that was purchased, as well as a professional development of that new curriculum. And then we talked about the student quarantine packets and classroom materials. Then I also presented the school accountability report card, and basically it's just a card, a report card in a sense for our school, and every school does that, and to where you're able to, and I let you know where you could find that on the website. It just talks about different information about our school, different demographics. I also presented that school home pamphlet that just kind of laid out different ways of how parents can get involved, different events that we have going on here. I asked for input on the group, from the group, if there was anything to add or change, and there wasn't at that time. And then there was a survey that, this was a long time ago, so I don't know if you guys remember all this, but there was a survey of sorts that we completed. And so I just put it out in this chart kind of form, but it was 3 different areas. We talked about building relationships, building partnerships for student outcomes, and seeking input for decision making. And this was based on the district and getting information. And so we talked about areas of strength in each of these sections. We talked about focus areas of improvement and how to improve engagement for families. So those were the answers there. And then I asked for input for LCAP. So there's a lot of different things that our district has put in place to provide. And so you guys provided input on that for LCAP. And I'll just open that really quick. So just to kind of show that main slide where it talked about different things that the district is already providing. Let me see if I can find it. Because we had the different goals and the different things that are going on in our district. And let me see, sorry, I can't find that. Oh, this one right here. And so that it was just talking about how we are going to be providing an additional elementary music teachers for our younger grades, a PE teacher, art teachers, health teacher will be at the middle schools. So we'll have social workers at all of our elementary schools, as well as additional support staff that we have. So that was basically it as far as our last meeting. Does anybody have any questions? Okay,
Hi everybody. Can you make the screen a little bit larger? I'm on your monitor and it's so much brighter.
sure. No, not a problem. I can do that.
Thank you.
And so if there's no questions about the minutes, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting?
I motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wright. Go a second.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Annette. And is motion, or I almost forgot how to say this. All members approve? Be aye, yes, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that was our minutes. I'm not sure if anybody was able to make the last meeting. It was in March for the DAC representative meeting. Mrs. Osby, and this is for any parent can attend, but Mrs. Osby, I think you are a DAC representative. Were you able to make it to the last meeting? And if not, that's okay.
I made it to a meeting. I'm not for sure if that was the name of it.
That one or not. I know there's so many different meetings that they have. Do you have this?
I believe that was it because I know it was in the morning.
Okay. It could be this one. So it's like it's similar to our meeting, but it's just more at a district level. And so I do have the minutes provided, and it just talked. It looks like they talked about LCAP, so very similar to our meeting that we had in February, but it was, like I said, more at the district meeting. And so they were getting LCAP information, and so once again, our LCAP is a plan that our district puts in place, and it basically kind of goes through the different funding sources. So we have, these kinds of funds. How are we going to use them? And so it basically looks at that. And so it looks like that they were talking about different programs, looking into a program called K-Talk for TK and K. Barbara, so she's a lady that works in our district office for our categorical programs, our funding programs. So it looks like she's going to be looking into this, into a certain program for TK and K to help them with simple language. They also talked about, it looks like a parent or staff member was interested in using funds to purchase clothes for homeless students. But Barbara just explained how, we do have funds, but it's for like basic needs and supplies. And when it comes to more of like the clothes and those kinds of things, we do have our Family Resource Center that helps with that, that piece. And then they asked for input from, or they went over an input summary of LCAP. And then they talked about the district needs assessment. So like I said, it was very, very similar to our meeting. It's just more at the district level. And then they talked about these things because of the district needs assessment. Our district listens to, it's for our parents, staff, and students that fill these out. And so based on that feedback, that's why we're getting these different things. Art teacher, music teacher, PE teachers at elementary schools, social workers at all of our elementary schools, and additional funds to libraries. And then they just had kind of went over their budget, projecting their budget for next year. So no action is needed on this. This is just mainly for information purposes. Are there any questions on that? Okay, like I said, I'm trying to move it right along. So this is really the meat of our meeting for today, is really about our budget here at the school site. And it's a proposed budget at this point. And so these are different areas that I was just going to present to the team, also get input from the team if needed. And as we look forward already to next year, which is kind of crazy, but looking into our budget for next year. So on Tuesday, I had a meeting with our English learner committee. And so these were some ideas that I presented to the team. So this is specifically just for English learners. So these are some areas that I'm proposing that we can use these specific funds in the area of curriculum. So we did purchase some ELD Wonders curriculum for that time to help support our English learners. I'll need to replenish those because they're consumable, so the kids can write in them, and so we would get new ones for the next year. So I would need to purchase additional curriculum for that. And then materials, our students are already trained and our teachers in thinking maps. So I don't know if you guys saw any of that when you came yesterday to our picnic or the open house, or even when kids bring things home, but we have different things and they basically look like maps, like circles with writing in them, or sometimes they might have squares and lines underneath them. And this is just to help that writing process for our students. But there's also a program that goes along with it, and it's called Pathway to Proficiency, and it's specific for our English learners. Just because they are learning that language, it's just an extra support for them, an extra layer. So I would like to buy more materials when it comes to that, as well as buying dual language library books. So it's really cool. They have a lot of times they have books where it's in both languages. So they'll have like Spanish, and it's the same page, but like Spanish on one side and then English on the other side. And they can check those out and even take it home. And then those families are able to kind of understand more of what they're reading for those that speak Spanish, but also even looking into, we have some students here with the language of Arabic. And then we also have, I hope I'm saying it right, Tagalog. So like Filipino students.
Tagalog.
Say it again.
Tagalog.
Tagalog. Thank you. Well, there you go. So, but we also have, so I would like to buy kind of like dual language library books in our library. And then because of that thinking map, that path to proficiency, we would need training. So I would like to also plan those funds to help with the training that's needed for that, as well as any instructional strategies that our teachers need to help with our English learners and support them. And then I always try to plan for this when we have parent conferences or family events, and just making sure that we have translation available for, and we're paying our staff members that are able to provide that. So once again, this isn't for approval. This is just letting you guys know I did ask the ELAC committee. This is what I presented, and I asked them, is there anything else that you would like or any other input that you can think of, and they liked it. They said that they thought this was a good idea and a good plan when it comes to our English learners. So any questions on this part? Okay. Okay, so then now for kind of looking at the bigger picture for all of our students. So just kind of a refresher again, there's funding that's available from our district, and it's basically, think of it as different buckets of money, different pots of money. And so I have different areas of where I can spend this money. So these are just the titles of it. So I know I sent out, it looks like a crazy, let me see if I can pull it up, but it looks like a crazy long, I'll move it over here. I mean, it's like, when you look at it, you're like, this is a lot of stuff on here, a lot of lines, a lot of numbers, a lot of writing. What does this all mean? But this is my process with the district, as far as like each column is a different bucket of money that I can spend. And then every line is, okay, so out of this bucket, I want to spend it on these different things. Okay. And I know these are things, I know Mrs. Wright, you've signed this before, when we get it approved. So I try to put it, I did provide it in that parent square message. I don't know if you guys all got that, but I did send this out. But so the different big kind of buckets of money I have. So Title I is to support all of our students, and it's direct services. So any kind of materials that go straight to our students that they're going to use. Any of our staff, so like program assistants that help and with interventions or help our students with different levels of support. And then the Title III, which is support for English learners. So that was that information that I just went over from our ELAC committee. So that's specific just to English learners and can only be spent on them. And then there's also an instructional materials bucket, but that's more like our district curriculum that is adopted. And so if we need to purchase additional materials there or supplement to, like if we have discarded materials, or maybe they got ruined somehow, or we just need more, I can use it from that bucket only. And then I also have I just shortened it, but a SPED, but special education. So that's support for special education students. So it's kind of above and beyond. And sometimes they require certain materials or certain supplies that's a little bit more specialized for what they need. And then LCAP, that's just aligned to our district goals. And that's more of like from the last meeting, and then in DAC where they talked about like the LCAP input and how we're able to, like our district's able to provide funds for that. But really like it's and the LCAP, I know it's one thing, but it's kind of a lot of things all together that I'm able to fund more. And then I have money from lottery is what it's called. And that's basically the least restrictive. So some of these have a little bit more restrictions, as you see, like I can only spend this on English learners. I can only spend this for special education students. This one, I can pretty much spend on anything I want that goes for our school, okay, without really looking as restrictions. And so that's just kind of a quick little budget lesson right there as far as the funds. And so these are some of the things that I'm proposing to spend on. And once again, this is from this huge kind of crazy mess of lines that you see with all of the money, but it's really like, you know, even more so than a home budget, it's very detailed as far as how I want to spend it and all of that. And so, so what I would like to use all of these different buckets of money is professional development for teachers and our assistants. So anything with our curriculum or different programs or computer programs that we have, teaching strategies, lesson planning. So things that's going straight into their teaching and helping to support that for our students. We're also going to be starting a what they call a pilot program. So kind of trying it out is Project Lead the Way. And this will be for our TK through second grade students. So we're starting it there and then kind of building upon that each year. But there's training and materials that are involved. And what Project Lead the Way is, I don't know if you have like older family members that have gone into high schools. A lot of the high schools have these kinds of different programs, like where it's focused on engineering or medicine, or there's kind of different areas in that. But it's more of a STEAM. I don't know if that's a word too that you guys are familiar with, but they also use that as well. But it's kind of science, technology, all of that kind of in together that integrates into reading. And so it's really cool. They have really cool different, they call them modules or things that you're teaching alongside with really just engaging those students in that. And so that's training and materials that would be needed for that. And then after school interventions, we had second grade did a lot of after school interventions. This year, we also, so that's paying for the materials and the staff that's being used. And we would like to provide more after school interventions as possible. We also had some with some of our other grade levels that were able to do that as well, or even just extra staff members that were able to stay later. And so that was providing that after school intervention. Field trips. So we got the green light towards the very end of the year. So it's kind of hard to scramble and get a bunch of field trips going, but we are definitely planning on bringing those back and getting field trips going. And so I would like to use some of that money for that registration cost and transportation costs for all of our grade levels to be able to go on to field trips. I'd also like to use the money for student incentives, events, assemblies, help promote that positive behavior, and just really just make the school community just kind of a fun place for the kids to feel like they want to come here. As always, classroom materials, so things from pencils, pen, and paper to maybe binders or folders or anything you can think of that goes into the classroom. And then also the daily things that just help our school run with management systems, printers, copiers, maintenance of those machines. So that's just kind of a overview summary all of the different line items. So does anybody have any questions or anything I could clarify?
Those line items that you showed briefly, had these on there, like those totals for field trips, for instance?
Yes, yes. And so this is what I provided to you guys. I know it was just earlier today, but I did provide this to you guys.
Yeah. Did you make it bigger?
Oh, yeah, sure. And I don't know if you're on a phone, sometimes you can make
No,
it.
I'm on a laptop, but the screen is funky and it's
So,
extra light.
yeah, so for instance, like this one right here, this is more for our fifth graders. So end of the year, but this talks about the transportation cost of that. So that's in this line item here. And then I also have, let me see. Well, let me make it a little bit smaller first so I can find it. Sorry. This whole column right here is dedicated to field trips. And so this one is like if we have assistants that are going on the field trip, sometimes they go longer than the regular day. So this is paying for that extra duty coverage and then the benefits that go with that. And then I also have set aside down here, so the bus costs, the transportation costs, and then as well as any field trips. And roughly in the past, it's been around $4,000 for all of our grade levels because our third, fifth, fourth, and fifth, the registration is paid for by the district. And so I don't have to pay for that piece, but I do need to pay for TK K first and second. So I have money allotted for that as well in these line items. That's a good question.
So this is the combination you're saying for all the grade levels, the 17,000?
The right here in this line item, the 2,000. So this 2,350. This is for the TKK first and second. This is roughly the estimates in this box that go with the transportation cost. Because once again, the district will pay for the third, fourth, and fifth graders.
Okay, so for the monies left over from this year?
No, so what happens with that is typically new buckets every year is basically how that happens. And so the only thing that I'm able to kind of carry over, so to speak, is the lottery bucket. But typically, if I don't spend the money in the line items, then the district takes that back and they use it for other things at the district. So I try to really
Allocate it, or does it go into a fund, or
say that again. I'm sorry.
does it go into a general operating expense bucket, or?
No, it goes into the general fund and then they reallocate it for the schools that need it. So we are really good about spending all of our money.
Okay.
Then what happens also is that the state, so a few years ago when this whole LCAP thing, LCFF started, the state gave you a certain amount of money.
Mhm.
And if you did not spend that money or that amount, and you had a bunch left over, the state would say, oh, well, you don't need that much then. I'm not going to give you that much next year. And so we learned really, really quick, like we better spend all our money to the penny because we want to make sure we get the most every year.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but good question.
Thank you.
But is there any other questions or any other, and like right here, I'm just looking like this is the project lead the way training I was talking about. So I try to I write a lot of notes, but so I have the line items here in the boxes of the numbers, but then I also on the side is explaining this is what it's for.
Were we given our inputs on where you want to spend the money on the part where you had the extra money for? Or like the assemblies?
Yeah, so I don't want to say I have extra money. I've put things in place to where, like what Mrs. Kachu is doing, trying to spend things to the penny. And this is just a projected budget at the beginning of the year. And then typically we look at this again in October to see, okay, maybe we need to make some changes or some revisions, maybe put a little bit more money here in this area, or a little, kind of move money around, so to speak. But I don't necessarily have money left over. Everything I have is accounted for in here. So this is more of, after kind of going over the different ideas that I have, was there any other ideas that you could think of that I should spend money in different areas?
Well, I like the part where you got assemblies, and I had mentioned it last time, like we can, like, the people who get principal lists, because that's a hard thing to get, but they always get like a water bottle. Like my son has always been getting honor roll every year for the last 5-6 years. So we got like 18, 20 water bottles, and he's like, I don't need another water bottle.
We heard your
So,
input. We heard your input. So here's what we
Okay.
did. It is so funny because you gave us that idea.
Yeah.
We, what we did was we looked at every single quarter, every single report card period. And we said, okay, for the first report card, we're going to only give like water bottles. And then the next report card, they're going to get like a flag. And then the next report card, they're going to get like a bumper sticker. So we're going to try not to be repetitive anymore. And Miss Powers, who's also in here, is arranging the stuff for this last honors assembly that are coming up. And all the stuff that we'll be giving out are completely different than what we've ever given out before.
yay.
I think like the certificates, I mean, the certificates are the same, you get a certificate, but like things like, I think we added things like what were the things? Like, I know there was a flag.
We had we had the pennant flags, we had magnets, and then like little keychain, like backpack keychain, but they say honor roll or principal's list, something like that on them.
Yes.
So,
Cool.
We're trying to change it up.
but yeah, we heard you.
That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And also that instructional, I know she had mentioned that instructional materials, that's where a lot of this stuff is, a lot of the funds are. And she was specific about saying, okay, yeah, we need this stuff and this stuff, but there's still that category of instructional materials it's vague, but not, where you can kind of say, okay, well, you know what, this is going to be good. And we would spend it out of this area if it's an instructional resource. So there is a little bit of vagueness, but also some specificity to each of the categories.
Yeah, but you guys have some good questions. So does this sound like overall like a good plan as far as like the areas and how I'm proposing that we spend the money going into next year?
And Julie, you gave them a copy. You said you had sent them a copy earlier of the budget, the line items, because we want to make sure we want to make sure that we're completely transparent, that you guys can see all of this, that you get a copy of this.
Yes, I sent a copy of all the different documents that I'm covering today. I sent copies of.
Okay, perfect.
And if you didn't get those for some reason, let me know.
I did, but like I'm working, so I didn't get to review any of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get it. But yeah, like Monica said, that's why I try to send as much stuff like to you guys, or I record the meetings and then I'll send that recording out. So then that way it's available to all of our families as well. So that way they know even what we discussed and the questions. Okay, so if there's no other questions regarding just the budget part, do I have a motion to approve this proposed budget for projected budget, I should say, for next year?
I motion for approval.
And I'll second.
And then all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then the next thing that I'm talking about, it's actually the same thing, except it's just in a different format. And this is where I have the huge, like, it's a huge plan that I make. So it's similar to the report card in the sense of it goes over like the demographics of our site. It goes over scores, which we haven't had scores now in a couple of years because of COVID. But like with SBAC, so like our older kids, 3rd, 4th, and 5th and above, they take the SBAC test. Our 5th graders take the science test. It's a state test that they take. So it'll show like the different data points that are in there. And then it also goes into detail more. So like the different line items that I was talking about, it goes into more detail and it bases them off of the different goals. So like this is, there's 3 goals that we have for our district. And so I just kind of color coded them here. But so goal 1 is high student achievement for all. And so, like I said, all those line items now, they're just kind of grouped into what we call these actions. So under the goal, I have these different actions. So where I talk about, I'm paying, there's money allocated for that supplemental staff. So additional program assistants that we have in classrooms. Our program clerk, Monique, who does lots of different things and here at our site. But so this is more for that staffing component of paying for people. And then the money that is allotted just to that piece there. And then I have providing support for student achievement. So the after school interventions, we have the different student activities, the different field trips that they go on. And so that's the money allotted for that action. Also the providing support for the professional development that I mentioned. And so that's the money allotted for that piece. And then I have the like grade level copies, supplement materials, paying for like the maintenance of our copy machines. And that's in this area here, or the money allocated in that action. Supplemental materials for classrooms, and then different educational computer programs that we have. And that's that money spent here. And then also the educational field trips. So providing that like kind of specific just for field trips. And so that's for goal 1. So this all is going for high student achievement for all. Then the next one goes into more detail talking about goal 2 is safe and orderly environment. And so this is, we have, so like Miss Annette, she is our student intervention facilitator. Well, we also have an additional one, and he's part-time, Mr. Womack. And so I pay additional money so we can have an additional person. So the district pays for Miss Annette, and then I'm saying, hey, I want to have another one here. So I'm paying for that, as well as if we have any additional meetings with our noon aides or anything that has to do with school safety. So this is the money that's allocated for that in this action. And then the assemblies, the student incentives, so promoting that safety and positive culture at our school, that's the money allocated in that action. And then I also have like the different management systems, the school signage, materials and supplies. So if you're on campus yesterday, you saw like the pause that we have on our windows and different posters and different things that are out. So it's that type of thing with our positive. So all of this has to do with school safety and like positive school culture or school climate is what they call it. And then also the last one would be any kind of professional development that's needed with our staff, our teachers, of just, giving them, increasing their knowledge of all of those different things and supports in place. And so that's the money allocated for that. And then when it comes to strong school and community relationships, this is where we have that parent translation that's provided during like conferences, school events, and then as well as supplement materials for families. So typically what we do is for our new TKK students, there's like a packet of information as like a welcome gift, so to speak, but it talks about the importance of school, the importance of how you can help your child, as they're transitioning into school. And then I also purchased this year for our 5th graders, because now they're moving on and going to be going on to middle school. So it's more of that transition to middle school. And so it has different things, not just for the student, but also for the families. How can you help? And what are some things that, you kind of look for as your students are getting older, and how you can help them, and that connection with their student. So it's, like I said, it's basically the same thing. It's just put in a different format as far as the different goals that I have. And it just, it lays it out more in words as opposed to just numbers, and it explains it more. So it's not anything different. It's just in a different format, if that makes sense. Are there any questions about that with the school plan? Or anything I could clarify? Okay, I want to make sure I give people enough time to answer if they want to answer. Okay, and so do I have, so we already approved the budget. So now do I have a motion to approve the plan?
I motion for you to move forward with the plan.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, oh, and before I have Mrs. Kuchu talk, so I think it's been Mrs. Wright the last couple of times, but I will contact, because I will need a signature when it comes to the budget and to this, of just like a physical signature. Mrs. Kuchu signs it, and then our chairman will sign the budgets as well. So I'll reach out and we'll work a time that works for you. Thank you, guys. Okay, Mrs. Kuchu.
Okay, you want to go to the next slide? Okay, there you go. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Family Picnic Day open house event. We were so excited to have our first event here on campus. We were overwhelmed with the amount of people that showed up, but super, super excited that so many people came to our event. I heard some teachers say that they have never had that many people at their open house. Most of the classes, I think there was only maybe 1 or 2 people that didn't show up. So it was a ton of parents that were participating, and we were super, super grateful to have everyone here at the event. Julie and myself were, a little bit frantic, making sure we had everything in order and in place. We did run into a few hiccups with the raptoring in of all of the people because the lines were super long and it was taking a lot longer than we had anticipated. But it's a lesson that we learned. Next time we're looking to hopefully get more of those raptor stations to scan people in. We're hoping that we can get maybe 8, so we can have more entrances and more people can come in, and that process is expedited a little bit quicker. I am all about student safety, and I really make sure that we're following the appropriate procedures, especially that scanning and raptoring in, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're not letting anybody on campus that should not be here. It's that Raptor system scans for any kind of offenders that should not be on a campus. And so I think it's a great safety protocol for keeping all of our students safe. We did add that extra layer of having the students have a ID badge that we matched up to go home with the parents. And that just kind of made me feel super safe as well, because I wanted to ensure that every kid went home with the right adults. That's my super fear, that a kid is going to go home with a different adult, or they're going to not go where they need to go. And so I kind of take that safety thing to the next level just because it makes me so nervous. I want to make sure all the kids are safe. And so if we have to, at the expense of safety, I think it's important. But did you guys get to attend the event?
I did.
Did you have to wait in line for a long time? I hope not.
Yes, I was thankful that I did not bring hot food, or just a lot in general. I have one student there. I think that if I didn't have the luxury of being the boss, then I wouldn't have got to hang out with my son or see his classroom, because it was very long, and I saw parents leaving. So that kind of bummed me out. But yeah, I was excited. I still am on cloud nine because I got to go. I missed all kindergarten with my son. So to be able to come on the campus and see where he goes and plays up close and go visit his classroom, that was epic for us.
Good, I'm glad. What about you, Miss Wright?
Yeah, we had talked about it earlier, but yeah, I ended up going, me and my family, we had an awesome time. It was hectic, but it was fun.
Mhm. And so we'll definitely, you know, we found areas that we need to improve upon, and hopefully the next time we have an event like that, we, you know, we make sure we nail down all of the semantics a little bit sooner. We get more of those raptor stations in, so that way we can get more people in here quicker. I think that was our biggest hiccup. Other than that, I think we were, you know, we were okay. It's just a matter of getting them here, getting everybody in.
So will it fall under the safety protocol if we had like they asked us to RSVP, and I know that was for the lunch wise.
Yes,
But
it was mainly for the lunch, because our cafeteria manager, she makes the kids lunch every single day, because everybody receives a lunch. She needed to know how many lunches that she didn't need to make. And so that's mainly the thing. I was discussing with a few people in the office that could we raptor everybody in if they RSVP'd, could we have like the name badge ready for them? But
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask about.
But that process, they said you have to do it like, because it's a that day kind of thing, that it has to be done on that day. And I don't know if it's more of like a tedious process to do it before, and then, okay, now we have to have everybody in the right line. So who's going to have their badge? Organizing it by that way, you know?
I was gonna say, is it like safety protocol under your safety guidelines, because you're so big on safety, which is good thing. But like if you did RSVP and you get a list of the kids, students, and they have to check them out from the classroom. So no kid will be out of their class unless they got scanned from the teacher in a classroom. Like, would that be?
So what it does is what the system does is when you input your name into that particular database, it checks it every time that it puts it in. And so it's checking, like, you know, the police database, the anybody that's committed a sexual violation database, those things every single time. And so that part is the tedious part. That's why we need more stations set out to do that quicker. And so we're hoping to do that. Like I said, this time we had 3 stations. We're hoping the next time we do it, we want to have 8.
Is it possible also that that it happens on different days? Like we had problems like trying to find somewhere to sit.
And that was something that we had discussed as well with our leadership team previously. They had previously done, so let's say it was like kindergarten and first grade on one day, and then like second and third and fourth on another day, and fifth or whatever on a different day, or even staggered times throughout the day. So like first grade in the morning, first grade at this time, and then second grade at this time, and third grade at this time. And the feedback that we had received back from the teachers in the past from having these events is they said that a lot of the parents have multiple kids, and they want to have lunch with their 5th grader, and they also want to have lunch with their kindergartner together. And so then that created the issue. So it was a matter of weighing the option there. Do we make it where it's like we're having lunch together, or that we're, you know, doing it separate for the sake of space, right? So I don't really know the right or wrong answer for that on what do you think most parents would want to do in that situation?
Well, I have one. And, go ahead.
But I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think that's a good idea, because we can separate the 5th graders, since they're already gonna move on. They can have their own day, you know, to celebrate their going on in the family picnic. And then the kindergartners are already separated, so they can have their own day also. And then the ones in the middle can have like the big day.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of whether, you know, if you have multiple kids and if you want to have lunch together as a family, because when we looked around all of the picnics, there was a lot of families with a lot of kids. And so they had like a third grader, a fourth grader, a fifth grader, a kindergartner. They had various kids in the same grouping. So I don't know exactly the right answer. What were you going to say, Miss Osby? I'm sorry.
I have one child, and that was like extremely hard for me because it was like he was like a needle in a haystack. His teacher had already let him go. My kid was in the midst of a million kids, and there I was having lunch and walking around the entire playground, right? And then I find him way on the other side, and you know, it was a lot of time. You know, we sat in the mud. You know, the bench was right there, but like we squeezed and we had to sit down. I brought a nice little blanket, you know, combo set, but it was mud, you know? And so I could understand if I had more than one child at school, but I don't. I have one. And I didn't get to, he was eating by himself. He had the lunch from the cafeteria and he was eating by himself. And that was a bummer for me because there I was outside trying to get in and
I think that you're,
and he had to go to the cafeteria and then just wandering all over. You know what I mean? And miss the family. Imagine your kid watching everybody else with their family because you're not there.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, there were some things that we definitely need to improve upon. And I'm thinking that maybe we can send out like a survey to the parents and ask them what their preference is. Maybe do we have it on separate days? Do we all have it on the same day? Do we have it, you know, at different times within the same day? And then the parent can stay and do multiple throughout the day. So we can say I have like, you know, I could first eat lunch with my kindergartner. And then if I have a fourth grader, I could just hang out and stay until my fourth grader comes out. Right. So those kind of options. But like I said, we want to make sure we explore all of that and try to get it right for next time. So I think we're going to probably proceed with the parent survey just to get a little bit more feedback with that. The next thing is an update on the end of the year activities. We have awards assemblies coming up. Our first awards assembly is, I don't know if you guys have received the calendar with the newsletter, but our first assembly coming up is actually next Friday. We have second grade, fifth grade, and TK awards assemblies. On the Tuesday when we return from Memorial Day, we'll have kindergarten and fourth grade awards assemblies, and our fifth graders will be going to Camelot on that day. And then on the second, on Thursday the 2nd, we'll have our first and our third grade awards assemblies. And we're so glad that this year we're glad that this go around, it will be in person. So our parents can come to each of these awards assemblies and see their child get their awards for that assembly. So we're excited about that. We have Bounce House Day that is also coming up for all of our grade levels. That's going to be on the June 1st. And then our last day of school is on June the 3rd. And summer school will start the week after that. It'll begin on June 7th and it'll run 4 days a week. So that's what we have coming up. We're super excited about that. And we'll hopefully be able to have more events next year. We're planning on scheduling those as soon as possible.
I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
The yearbook, I purchased a yearbook online for my fifth grader, and I want to know, do you have a date?
It just came in.
Oh, okay.
They're going to give it to him tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
Yes, tomorrow.
So do he have to bring in a receipt because we bought it online?
No, they have the list and they'll be delivering them to classrooms.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay, and then are there any other comments or questions that you guys have?
For the reward assembly, is it going to be one kiosk or are we going to have more?
We usually run two things, but we don't have as many people as we had that because it's by grade level.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What does that mean? What does kiosk mean?
It's where we scan your ID.
Like our stations.
Oh, to come in? Oh, okay, okay.
That's a good question though. So yeah, we will still require that. Like she said, it's just part of our safety protocols that we have as far as checking any adult coming in. And but yeah, we typically have two. And like she said, it definitely goes a lot faster because it's just one grade that we have. And then typically just the ones that are getting awards as well.
So my son is also in the band, and he has a concert next week, I think. So are you gonna do the kiosk there too?
Yes, I forgot to mention that one. That's Thursday, the 26th at 6 o'clock. We will be doing, it's a night performance, and we'll be doing the kiosk as well, but we only have, I think, what is it, like how many band members? Maybe 30? Julie? I think
Maybe.
it's about 30 band members. So it won't be nearly as many people at all. It'll only be the parents of those 30 kids.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm all excited because we've been there since kindergarten, and he's going on to junior high. So I'm like, oh my goodness. But I do have two, one coming in and one going out. So I have two there next year.
Awesome.
So I'll still be around.
All right. Well, once again, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys making it to today's meeting. I appreciate your guys' feedback and questions. That's it. Then I didn't put a date. I don't have a firm date of when our next meeting will be next year, but typically it's in October. So just be on the lookout, and I will let you know when that's coming up. All right. Well, that's all that I have. Thank you guys.